In recent years, film distribution has changed dramatically. Now, whether this change has been for better or worse, that's debatable. However, it is undeniable that the way we consume entertainment has greatly shifted within the past decade. Of course, the change I'm referring to is the shift from traditional distribution channels such as cinema and television entertainment towards streaming services and internet-based entertainment such as YouTube, Netflix, and Prime Video. Jennifer Holt explains in her book Digital Revolution that in the past 5 years, the scramble to manage the digital future of film and television has sparked both turmoil and transformation, forcing industry leaders to reconsider established maxims about how screen media is created, circulated, and consumed. Enter Quibi. Short for Quick Bites, Quibi launched on April 6th, 2020 and hoped to join the ever-growing list of subscription-based streaming services. Founded by Meg Whitman, who was a previous CEO at eBay, and Jeffrey Katzenberg, who went from chairman at Disney to founder of DreamWorks, Quibi is a fantastic example of entertainment industry transformation. Quibi was a subscription service which created entirely original content featuring your favorite celebrities and stars. And although they made a few different styles of content, all were intended to be watched in 10 minutes or less entirely from your smartphone. From the idea and the combined experience of its founders, Quibi was able to secure almost $2 billion in funding from big investors such as Disney, Sony, MGM, and many, many more. So bearing all this in mind, Quibi seemed like a surefire hit, right? Well, apparently not. As in October 2020, just 6 months after its launch, Quibi announces that it's shutting its doors for good after failing to draw in subscribers. Now, you could quite easily shrug the failure of Quibi off as nothing more than just another failed business, like so many others. However, I believe the life and death of Quibi is possibly a greater reflection on the flaws of modern entertainment. So in this video, I'll be answering the question, what does the failure of Quibi tell us about modern media distribution? One major question that the failure of Quibi raises surrounding modern media distribution is whether or not content distributed solely for smart devices is in fact the natural next step in the evolution of entertainment. As we've seen throughout history, developments in technology have paved the way for new forms of entertainment distribution, such as the development of cinema in the early 20th century, the rush to television in the 40s and 50s, and more recently the shift over to internet-based entertainment. As put by Jeffrey C. Hewlin in his book The Business of Media Distribution, nowadays the market is being defined by consumers accessing content via mobile phones and streaming shows. It's not hard to find examples of successful modern media enterprises that are exclusive to or optimized for smartphones. In the first quarter of 2020 alone, the short-form video app TikTok had 315 million downloads. And although not exclusive to smart devices, over 1 billion hours of content is watched every day on YouTube, and over 70% of this watch time comes from mobile devices. So what separated Quibi from other short-form mobile strategized content sharing sites that meant that Quibi fell on its face while others continued to thrive? I believe it simply comes down to the risk-to-reward ratio for Quibi's users. What are the positives and negatives when signing up for a subscription? YouTube is the perfect example of a low risk to high reward ratio in a modern media distribution site. It's free to use, you don't need an account to watch the majority of its videos, and you have access to seemingly endless content. The only downside or risk of the service is that you have to watch occasional ads if you don't pay for a premium account. And although there is a lot of content, it does vary in quality as anyone can make an account and upload what they want. Quibi, however, decided to only host original and exclusive content. You could only watch this content on a smartphone, and you couldn't guarantee that you would like the content until you'd paid for a subscription, which although only starts at $5 a month, it still comes with ads. And if you want no ads at all, you have to pay an extra fee, bringing the total to $8 a month for a subscription. All of this just means the risk is not particularly worth the reward when signing up for Quibi. I was lucky enough to interview Kate Nibbs from Wired.com. She had written a fantastic article on Quibi, which I would definitely recommend you read. I was able to ask her about her own opinion on the points I raised throughout this essay. And when discussing the risk to reward ratio for Quibi's users, she said that she believed there was no compelling reason for anyone to sign up for Quibi, except the people that were paid to review it. There is an overwhelming amount of short video available on the internet for free, so Quibi needed a standout hit to justify its price tag. It didn't have one. This brings me on to another issue that the failure of Quibi may tell us about modern media distribution. That is that the modern subscription model may not be as solid of a foundation as we thought, and is possibly not always a reliable way to distribute content. Alex Baskian wrote a fantastic article for Forbes titled "What's Behind the Rise of the Subscription Model?" In the article, Baskian goes deep into the power of the modern subscription model, exploring and explaining why they're so successful. I believe by comparing a few of the points raised in this article with the way in which Quibi was managed, you can effectively highlight not only the possible fatal flaws that led to Quibi's downfall, but also possible ways in which a subscription model is not an ideal way to distribute new content. The first factor that Baskin believes plays an integral role in the success of a subscription-based streaming service is the price, which makes total sense. Paying a minimal fee every month is a much better alternative than paying per film at the cinema or on DVD or Blu-ray. However, through its poor decisions surrounding pricing, Quibi possibly shot itself in the foot, as discussed earlier. Another reason surrounding pricing that could suggest a wider issue for any new or up-and-coming subscription services is subscription fatigue and price stacking of multiple subscriptions. What I mean by this is, yeah, sure, £5 to £10 a month for a subscription service is not a bad deal, and it is certainly better value than paying for traditional distribution formats. However, prices for all these services begin stacking. It doesn't seem like such a good deal anymore. Maybe Quibi was just too late to the party, and people didn't want more money leaving their bank accounts every month. In my interview with Kate Nibbs, she echoed the same opinion. She believed that Quibi were fighting an uphill battle to convince people to pay for yet another subscription service, especially one that offered short-form content, which people are used to watching for free. She went on to say that the streaming field is crowded, and the services emerging now know they have to offer huge hooks to lure viewers in. Baskin goes on to say that convenience plays a huge role in the success of a subscription model, and the errors made by Quibi here I think most greatly reflect the possible lapse in judgment within the future of modern media distribution. This being that just because a piece of technology is smaller and lighter doesn't mean that it's actually more convenient to use. In the case of modern entertainment, possibly, it's up for debate. But maybe Quibi's style of content is better suited for more traditional forms of distribution. Watching a film in 10-minute segments, vertically, while in public, doesn't seem like the most convenient way to watch modern content. Jeffrey Katzenberg has blamed the COVID-19 pandemic for the failure of Quibi. He believes that because people were out and about less, the aspects that originally made the app convenient, such as being able to watch films and shows on the go, now hindered its performance as no one is going anywhere. When I brought this up in my interview with Kate Nibbs, she responded by saying, "I don't buy the pandemic excuse. TikTok has grown even more popular during the pandemic, and it's exclusively short video. I don't think this was an issue of timing." In the case of the last 2 points discussed in the article, the importance of personalization and curation, Quibi's failure tells us that when it all comes down to it, content and the variety of content matters most when it comes to subscription services. Your service can look great or work great, but if you don't have the content to back it up, it's not going to work. Kate Nibbs said that she believes Quibi's video player looked great, and if it had been paired with sufficiently compelling original content, it could have worked. Launching the service with such little to show in the way of content meant that it was near impossible to get a genuine feeling of personalization when using the service. Every user was getting recommended the same content, and the fact that all the content was made by Quibi themselves meant there was a somewhat disingenuous tone in every recommendation the service gave. So, what does the failure of Quibi tell us about modern media distribution? Well, firstly, it tells us that the success of a modern media distribution site is influenced heavily by the risk to reward ratio for its users. We also learned that value is important. It may seem obvious, but it's so easy to get TV shows and films online for free now, so prices have to stay low to beat out competition. We also learned that distribution should always be convenient for audiences and users. The way that content is distributed should never restrict or limit the audience's ability to interact with the product. And most of all, we learned that the product is key. Other issues in modern distribution can take a back seat if the content they're providing is engaging enough to keep audiences invested.